Princess Lyra of Zorathia was famous across the galaxy. Every being who saw her could not help but admire her shimmering silver skin and glowing starlight eyes. She moved with the grace of a comet and spoke with the soft authority of a queen born to rule. Yet despite all the praise and admiration, Lyra could not believe in her own beauty. Inside, a quiet voice whispered doubts she could never silence. Do they really see me? Or do they just say it because I am a princess? She wondered, her heart heavy. The palace of Zorathia was vast, filled with towering crystal spires, floating gardens and hallways that shimmered with soft light. But to Lyra it often felt lonely. Nobles bowed and smiled, diplomats offered flattering words, but their eyes rarely saw her. They saw the crown, the perfect posture, the flawless skin, but not the thoughts and feelings hidden beneath. Even her closest attendants, trained to anticipate every need, could not reach the part of her that longed to be seen for who she truly was. One evening, Lyra walked alone in the palace gardens, far from the grand halls and glowing fountains. The twin moons hung low, casting silver light over the strange alien flora that hummed softly in the night. She reached the crystal pond at the center of the garden, its water so clear it reflected the sky above. Lyra leaned over, gazing at her own reflection. Her skin glimmered in the moonlight, her eyes bright and deep, but she could not see herself the way others claimed to see her. She saw only a princess trapped by duty, trapped by expectations, trapped by a mask of perfection she had worn since childhood. I try to be beautiful, to be perfect, she whispered, her voice trembling slightly, but am I really beautiful? Or am I just a statue in their eyes? She reached out, letting her fingers graze the water's surface. Ripples distorted the reflection, making her appear strange and fragile. For a moment she wished someone would look at her, truly look at her without all the formalities and rules, and tell her she was enough. The palace echoed with silence. Even the night creatures seemed to sense her sadness and kept their distance. She thought about the stories she had grown up hearing, about princesses admired across galaxies, adored by everyone, shining like stars wherever they went. But she felt nothing like those stories described. Instead of pride, she felt emptiness. Instead of joy, she felt the weight of expectations pressing down on her slender shoulders. Lyra's loneliness was not obvious to anyone. No courtier would dare say she was sad or uncertain. And perhaps, she thought bitterly, no one would care if she ever stopped smiling perfectly. She felt invisible under the layers of admiration, a ghost hiding behind beauty that was not even hers to claim. Her reflection stared back at her, silent and unyielding. The princess sighed, letting her hands fall into the water, the ripples spreading outward like the doubts that had defined her life. Then, somewhere deep inside, a small spark of longing flickered. Lyra did not know who would see her, who could make her feel alive beyond the crown and the palace. But she hoped. She always hoped. Perhaps one day someone would arrive, someone who would not see the title, the skin, or the glittering eyes. Someone who would see her, not the perfect princess everyone spoke of, not the image of beauty she had been forced to carry, but the real Lyra, the girl who laughed softly when she was happy, who worried when she was afraid, who dreamed when no one was watching. That night, as the moons glimmered above, Lyra sat by the pond, letting the cool water run over her fingers, thinking of the person she had yet to meet, the one who might finally shatter the doubts and show her what true beauty really was. Little did she know, her life was about to change in ways she could never imagine, and the arrival of a human stranger would soon make her laugh in a way that no mirror, no crown, and no courtly praise ever could. Princess Lyra of Zorathia was famous across the galaxy. Every being who saw her could not help but admire her shimmering silver skin and glowing starlight eyes. She moved with the grace of a comet and spoke with the soft authority of a queen born to rule. Yet despite all the praise and admiration, Lyra could not believe in her own beauty. Inside, a quiet voice whispered doubts she could never silence. Do they really see me? Or do they just say it because I am a princess? She wondered, her heart heavy. The palace of Zorathia was vast, filled with towering crystal spires, floating gardens and hallways that shimmered with soft light. But to Lyra it often felt lonely. Nobles bowed and smiled, diplomats offered flattering words, but their eyes rarely saw her. They saw the crown, the perfect posture, the flawless skin, but not the thoughts and feelings hidden beneath. Even her closest attendants, trained to anticipate every need, could not reach the part of her that longed to be seen for who she truly was. One evening, Lyra walked alone in the palace gardens, far from the grand halls and glowing fountains. The twin moons hung low, casting silver light over the strange alien flora that hummed softly in the night. She reached the crystal pond at the center of the garden, its waters so clear it reflected the sky above. Lyra leaned over, gazing at her own reflection. Her skin glimmered in the moonlight, her eyes bright and deep, but she could not see herself the way others claimed to see her. She saw only a princess trapped by duty, trapped by expectations, trapped by a mask of perfection she had worn since childhood. "I try to be beautiful, to be perfect," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly, "but am I really beautiful? Or am I just a statue in their eyes?" She reached out, letting her fingers graze the water's surface. Ripples distorted the reflection, making her appear strange and fragile. For a moment she wished someone would look at her, truly look at her without all the formalities and rules, and tell her she was enough. The palace echoed with silence. Even the night creatures seemed to sense her sadness and kept their distance. She thought about the stories she had grown up hearing, about princesses admired across galaxies, adored by everyone, shining like stars wherever they went. But she felt nothing like those stories described. Instead of pride, she felt emptiness. Instead of joy, she felt the weight of expectations pressing down on her slender shoulders. Lyra's loneliness was not obvious to anyone. No courtier would dare say she was sad or uncertain. And perhaps, she thought bitterly, no one would care if she ever stopped smiling perfectly. She felt invisible under the layers of admiration, a ghost hiding behind beauty that was not even hers to claim. Her reflection stared back at her, silent and unyielding. The princess sighed, letting her hands fall into the water, the ripples spreading outward like the doubts that had defined her life. Then, somewhere deep inside, a small spark of longing flickered. Lyra did not know who would see her, who could make her feel alive beyond the crown and the palace. But she hoped. She always hoped. Perhaps one day someone would arrive, someone who would not see the title, the skin, or the glittering eyes. Someone who would see her, not the perfect princess everyone spoke of, not the image of beauty she had been forced to carry, but the real Lyra, the girl who laughed softly when she was happy, who worried when she was afraid, who dreamed when no one was watching. That night, as the moons glimmered above, Lyra sat by the pond, letting the cool water run over her fingers, thinking of the person she had yet to meet, the one who might finally shatter the doubts and show her what true beauty really was. Little did she know, her life was about to change in ways she could never imagine, and the arrival of a human stranger would soon make her laugh in a way that no mirror, no crown, and no courtly praise ever could. Over the following days, Cale explored the palace freely. Unlike other visitors, he did not move like a shadow or a stranger afraid of offending anyone. He asked questions openly, laughed at small mistakes, and marveled at the palace gardens, crystal halls, and floating fountains, as if he had never seen such beauty before. Lyra noticed him everywhere, sometimes in the library reading alien manuscripts with puzzled concentration, sometimes in the kitchens, talking to the cooks about strange foods he had never tasted. He had a way of making every small thing feel extraordinary, and it pulled her in piece by piece until she could not ignore him. One afternoon, Kyle wandered into the observatory while Lyra was gazing at the twin moons. "Do they always glow like that?" he asked, pointing at the celestial bodies as if they were small lanterns in the sky. Lyra shook her head and smiled faintly.
"Only tonight," she said softly.
"The moons follow their own paths, just like everything else in the galaxy." Cale grinned, leaning over to examine the telescopes and star charts. "I've never seen anything like this," he said. "All my life I thought planets were just round rocks floating in space. But here it's alive. Everything feels alive." His words were simple, but Lyra felt them echo deep inside her. For the first time, someone was not noticing the princess, the crown, the robes, or the shimmering skin. He was noticing life, the essence of things, and she realized she wanted him to notice her the same way. As the days passed, Lyra began speaking more freely with Kyle. She told him about the endless ceremonies, the expectations that weighed on her, and the loneliness behind every bow and polite smile. Kyle listened without judgment, his brown eyes soft. and attentive. He laughed when she recounted minor mishaps like falling during a dance rehearsal or tripping over ceremonial robes, but his laughter was never mocking. It was warm, inviting, and somehow reassuring. "You make it sound like being a princess is a heavy burden," Cale said one afternoon, resting against the railing of the garden balcony. "But you carry it with grace." "I don't know how you do it." Lyra shook her head, looking down at her hands. "It isn't grace," she admitted quietly. "It's practice. Every day I put on a mask, smile when I do not feel like it, and pretend to be the person everyone wants me to be. Sometimes, I forget who I am underneath it all." Cale's gaze softened. "Then maybe it's time you stopped pretending," he said gently. "I don't care about the mask. I want to see the real Lyra." Those words lingered in her mind long after he had left. No one had ever said such a thing to her. Not the advisors, not her parents, not even her closest attendants. It was as if a window had opened in her heart, letting in a breeze she had forgotten existed. She realized she wanted to be seen, truly seen, not as a symbol of beauty or power, but as herself. One evening, Cale brought a small, strange-looking flower from the gardens. Its petals glowed faintly under the moonlight. He handed it to Lyra with a shy smile. "I thought you might like this," he said simply. Lyra held the flower, feeling its soft glow against her fingers. In that quiet moment, she felt something shift inside her. For the first time in years, she felt seen, appreciated, and understood. Not for her crown or her appearance, but for who she was. Lyra laughed softly, a sound that surprised even her. It was light, free, and real. Kyle laughed too, echoing her joy, and for the first time she felt the loneliness of her life start to dissolve. Something new was growing between them, a bond built not on duty, ceremony, or expectations, but on simple, honest human connection. And in that bond, Lyra began to understand a truth she had long ignored. Beauty was not in the reflection of a mirror or the praise of others. True beauty came from living, laughing, and being seen for who you really were. And Cale, with his open heart and unguarded laughter, was showing her exactly how beautiful she could be. One quiet evening, Lyra found herself in the palace observatory, her eyes tracing the vast galaxy beyond the glass dome. Stars shimmered in endless patterns, and the twin moons hung low, casting soft silver light on the marble floors. She loved the view, but tonight it brought no comfort. Her heart felt heavy, and the doubts she had long buried rose up once more. Cale entered the observatory without knocking, carrying 2 small cups of glowing tea from the palace kitchens. He moved with his usual ease, setting a cup gently beside her. "You look like you're thinking about a galaxy far away," he said with a grin. Lyra offered a small smile but said nothing. She could not yet explain the weight pressing on her chest. After a moment, she whispered, "I've spent my whole life thinking I had to be perfect. Everyone expects me to shine, to smile, to be beautiful. But sometimes I feel like I am nothing beneath it all." Her voice trembled, and Cale knelt beside her, his warm gaze meeting hers. "You mean, all that praise, all the compliments never felt real?" Kyle asked softly. "I can't imagine living like that." "It isn't real," she admitted. "Not the way I feel inside. People see the crown, the dresses, the shimmering skin, but they don't see me. The real me. And sometimes, I wonder if anyone ever will." Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, reflecting the starlight from the dome above. Cale reached out, touching her hand gently. "Lyra, you're looking at this all wrong. You've been trying to make everyone else see your beauty, but maybe it's not about them. Maybe it's about you. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. You just are." Lyra blinked, uncertain. "I want to believe that," she said softly. "But it's hard. I've been told my whole life what I should be, how I should look, how I should act. I don't even know if the person I am beneath it all is." "Enough." Kyle's lips curved into a gentle, reassuring smile. "Then let me tell you something," he said, his voice steady. "The real Lyra, right now scared or uncertain, laughing or quiet, is the person I see. Not the crown, not the perfection, not the mask. I see you. And if I see it, I think anyone else could too. Once they knew you." Lyra felt her chest tighten. No one had ever spoken to her like this. No one had ever looked at her as if she mattered for more than appearances. Her heart, long shielded by doubts and protocol, began to stir. She wanted to believe him, to let his words sink in, but the habit of self-doubt was strong. Cale leaned closer, his warm brown eyes full of honesty. "You don't have to be beautiful for anyone. You don't have to shine like a star to earn love or respect. You just have to be you, and that's more than enough. I promise." Lyra took a deep breath, letting his words wash over her. She felt a strange mixture of relief, fear, and hope. Her entire life she had believed that beauty was something others would judge, measure, and decide upon. But now, for the first time, someone made her feel that beauty could exist on its own, without expectation, without judgment, and without fear. A small, genuine smile broke across her face. Cale noticed instantly and laughed softly, a sound that was gentle but full of life. Lyra felt her heart flutter. She realized then that the first step to truly seeing herself was allowing herself to be seen, without masks, without pretenses, without fear. In that quiet observatory, under the gaze of countless stars, Lyra took her first real step toward freedom from doubt. For the first time, she felt a spark of hope that one day she could believe in her own beauty, not because the galaxy said so, but because someone had shown her that beauty was something alive, something felt and something real. And in Cale's steady presence, she sensed that spark growing, a tiny flame that promised laughter, warmth, and the courage to embrace herself fully. The next morning, Lyra wandered through the palace gardens feeling lighter than she had in years. The soft wind carried the scent of alien flowers, and the twin moons still lingered faintly in the sky, casting silver light over every petal and leaf. Cale followed behind her, carrying a small notebook filled with sketches of the gardens, creatures, and plants he had seen. His excitement was contagious, and Lyra felt herself smiling freely, a sound that surprised even her. As they walked along a marble path, Lyra noticed a small, uneven stone ahead. She stepped on it and stumbled, nearly falling into a shallow fountain. Cale reacted instantly, catching her gently by the waist. "Careful!" he exclaimed, laughing immediately at the situation, his laughter spilling into the gardens like sunlight. Lyra froze for a moment, unsure what to do. She had always been careful, always composed, always perfect. No one had ever seen her falter like this. But then something incredible happened. The sound of Cale's laughter, the pure, unrestrained joy in it, spread warmth through her chest. Without realizing it, she began to laugh too. At first it was quiet, almost shy. But Cale's laughter was infectious. Soon her laugh rang out clear and free, echoing under the alien skies. The two of them laughed together, blending like music and light, and for the first time, Lyra felt something she had never known: freedom. She looked at Cale, her heart pounding, and noticed that he was not laughing at her. He was laughing with her, celebrating the small, imperfect moment that would have seemed humiliating to anyone else. The realization struck her deeply. Beauty, she understood suddenly, was not about perfection, robes, or shimmering skin. True beauty was alive. It was found in laughter, in mistakes, in moments that were real and unplanned. Cale wiped a tear of laughter from his eye and grinned at her. "See," he said, "this is better than any perfect ceremony or fancy dance. It's real. And real is amazing." Lyra nodded, feeling tears of happiness mix with her laughter. She had spent her entire life striving to be what others wanted her to be: perfect, untouchable, flawless. But Cale's laughter, his willingness to embrace life fully, showed her another way. Being herself, flawed, human, alive, was more beautiful than any crown or courtly praise could ever be. They continued walking through the gardens, laughing at small missteps, teasing each other about Cale's clumsy sketches, and marveling at the strange alien flowers that glowed faintly under the moonlight. Lyra felt lighter with every step, as if her doubts had been washed away by this simple human joy. Her heart felt open for the first time, ready to accept happiness that had once seemed impossible. When they reached a quiet fountain, Lyra stopped and watched her reflection in the rippling water. She saw the same silver skin, the same glowing eyes, but now she noticed something else. She saw life. She saw joy. She saw the reflection of someone who could laugh, who could feel, and who could be loved for simply being herself. Cale crouched beside her, holding out a small glowing flower he had picked earlier. "You see?" he said softly. "It doesn't matter what anyone else says. You're alive, you're real, and that's the most beautiful thing anyone can be." Lyra accepted the flower, feeling its warmth in her hand. She looked at Cale, and for the first time she truly believed his words. Beauty was not a gift given by others. It was a life lived fully, a heart open to joy, and a spirit willing to embrace. the imperfect, unexpected moments of existence. That night, as the twin moons rose high above Zorathia, Lyra lay in her chamber thinking of the day's events. She realized her doubts had not vanished entirely, but something had changed. She now understood that beauty was not about being seen by the world. It was about living, feeling, and laughing with someone who saw her completely. And for the first time in her life, Lyra did not just feel admired, she felt alive. In the days that followed, Princess Lyra began to feel different, lighter, freer and more alive than she had in years. The laughter she had shared with Kale echoed in her heart constantly, and she found herself smiling at small things she once overlooked. The way sunlight shimmered on the palace crystals, the soft hum of the alien gardens or the gentle ripple of water in the fountains. Every moment felt vivid, full of life, and it changed the way she carried herself. When she walked through the palace halls, there was a new confidence in her steps. It was subtle but noticeable. The courtiers and advisors who had spent their lives watching the perfect, composed princess now noticed something different. Lyra's presence was no longer distant or untouchable. It was warm, magnetic, and real. Her silver skin still shimmered and her eyes glowed. But it was the spark within her, the laughter, the life, the authenticity, that drew attention now. Kale stayed by her side during this transformation, not as a teacher or guide, but as a friend and companion who reminded her what it felt like to live fully. He teased her gently, pointed out small wonders in the palace she had ignored, and encouraged her to embrace every fleeting moment of joy. "See that?" he said one morning, gesturing to a glowing flower on a balcony. "It's beautiful. And so are you, just by being yourself." Lyra laughed softly, the sound carrying freely in the open air. She realized that she had finally begun to understand what Kale had been showing her all along. Beauty was not measured by perfection, praise, or appearances. It was in the way she felt, the way she moved through the world, and the way she let herself experience life fully. One day, the court gathered for an important ceremony in the palace hall. Lyra entered, but this time she did not walk with the stiff, cautious elegance she had once practiced. Instead, she moved with a quiet grace, a natural ease that seemed effortless. Nobles whispered among themselves, surprised by the difference. Some were captivated, some confused, but all could feel the change. Lyra's beauty now came not from her skin, her robes, or her crown. It came from the life shining through her eyes, the subtle warmth in her smile, and the laughter that seemed to hang in the air around her. Kale noticed it too, his eyes lighting up with quiet pride. "You see?" he whispered. "You don't need to try anymore. This is the real you, and it's stunning." Lyra glanced at him, her heart swelling with gratitude and something deeper she had never allowed herself to feel. She realized that her doubts had not completely disappeared, but they no longer controlled her. She could finally laugh at her mistakes, embrace her flaws, and move through life as herself. Not the perfect princess everyone expected her to be, but the real Lyra. The palace began to change in small ways too. Courtiers who had been distant or cold began to approach her more warmly, inspired by the authenticity she now radiated. Nobles listened more attentively, not because she commanded authority, but because her joy, courage, and honesty drew them in. Even those who had once doubted her beauty or worth could not help but notice the energy she now carried. A magnetic combination of intelligence, kindness, and genuine life. That evening, Lyra stood on her balcony, gazing at the twin moons and the gardens below. Kale joined her, leaning casually against the railing. "Do you see?" he said softly. "The galaxy hasn't changed, the moons haven't moved, but somehow everything feels different." Lyra smiled, the warmth of her own laughter lingering in her chest. "Yes," she said quietly. "I feel alive." "Really alive?" Kyle nodded, his eyes full of admiration. "And that's the beauty everyone should see. Not just your skin or your crown, but this spark in you that makes life brighter for everyone around you." Lyra looked down at the palace gardens, now glowing softly under the moons, and felt a deep sense of peace. She had found herself, and in doing so, she had reminded everyone around her what true beauty really meant. Living fully, laughing freely, and letting the light inside shine without fear. The stars sparkled above Zorathia that night, casting soft silver light over the palace gardens. Princess Lyra stood at the balcony, her heart full, her spirit lighter than it had ever been. She no longer felt the weight of expectation pressing down on her shoulders. She no longer doubted her worth or her beauty. For the first time, she understood that beauty was not something given by others. It was something lived, felt, and embraced from within. Cale stepped beside her, his presence warm and reassuring. "Do you feel it?" he asked softly, his eyes tracing the glowing paths of the gardens below. "All of this. It feels different, doesn't it?" Lyra nodded, her silver eyes reflecting the twin moons above. "Yes," she whispered. "I've spent so long believing I needed others to tell me I was beautiful, that I needed to be perfect. But now I know it's not about them. It's about me. It's about life, laughter, and the courage to be myself." Cale smiled, and for the first time Lyra laughed freely alongside him. The sound carried into the night, mingling with the soft hum of the palace and the distant song of alien creatures. It was a laugh of triumph, of joy, of freedom, and in that laughter she felt her doubts dissolve completely. "You've changed," Cale said gently. "Not just the world around you, but you. You shine now, not because of a crown or a title, but because of who you are inside. And that is more beautiful than anything else in the galaxy." Lyra looked at him, her heart swelling. She realized she had never been truly seen before, not by advisors, nobles, or even her own family. But Cale saw her. He saw the real Lyra, the girl who stumbled, laughed, worried, and dreamed. The girl who had once doubted herself but now stood alive and radiant under the twin moons. I don't need to be perfect anymore," she said softly, letting her words float into the night. "I just need to be me, and that is enough." Cale took her hand, holding it gently. "It's more than enough," he said. "It's extraordinary. You've taught me something too, Lyra. You've shown me that beauty isn't about how the galaxy sees you, it's about how you see yourself, and how you let yourself live." Lyra's heart fluttered, and for the first time, she understood that her story was no longer about doubt or fear. It was about discovery, courage, and connection. She had found someone who could laugh with her, see her fully, and help her realize the beauty she had hidden from herself. The palace, once a place of cold grandeur, now felt alive and warm. The flowers glowed softly, the fountains rippled with gentle light, and even the stars seemed to shine brighter, as if celebrating the transformation of the princess who had once doubted everything about herself. Lyra leaned against Cale, feeling the warmth of his presence and the peace she had longed for all her life. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice full of sincerity. "For seeing me, for laughing with me, for helping me find me." Cale laughed softly, brushing a stray lock of her hair from her face. "No, Lyra, thank you. For letting me. For trusting me with the real you. That's the most beautiful thing I've ever known." As they stood together under the twin moons, Lyra finally understood the truth she had been seeking her whole life. Beauty was not about perfection, crowns, or praise. Beauty was life, love, laughter, and the courage to be yourself, fully and unafraid. And in that moment, Princess Lyra was not just beautiful, she was radiant, alive, free, seen. For the first time, she truly smiled, a smile that belonged to her and no one else. Cale laughed beside her, the sound echoing across the gardens, and the galaxy seemed to pause for a heartbeat, as if acknowledging the extraordinary human and alien connection that had transformed both of their lives. And so, under the endless stars, Lyra realized she had found something far greater than admiration or perfection. She had found herself, and in doing so, she had reminded the galaxy what true beauty really was: living, loving, laughing, and being seen for exactly who you are.